one of my favorite places in the world, the Norton Simon Museum in Pasadena, California. There's an exhibit about the Buddha going on right now. I'm going to go and take a look and see what inspires me. I'm not sure what I'm committing myself to, but as you can see, here is an image of the Buddha. Scanned it and then traced it out. What I want to do, what I want to try to do this week is create a stencil out of this image. That's why I did some dark lines here, especially around these detail areas like the fingers and the toes and the other adoration or the other decorations on the statue and on the picture, and maybe even the face. And I want to create that stencil out of, I believe, watercolor paper, which is a lot thicker than what I normally work with. I have a bit of a background with watercolor and I really like using the paper. It's a great substrate and it's fantastic for picture plane. I basically want that to frame my collage and build it from there. And I'm not sure what I may have gotten myself into. It's going to be a lot of cutting and a lot of work. It was actually just a lot of work to do this sketching and trying to determine how thick I'm going to want those lines, because here we are, like around the shoulder area here and where the pectoral muscle is. I needed to make the line a little bit thicker so I can cut, but that's not going to be a really thick line when the stencil shows up. And then I need to be cognizant, again, always of that negative space. The delicate negative space, that's so important with composition and collage. So I'm going to go ahead and try to cut. I was even thinking as I was drawing, because my hand actually started getting a little tired, I started wondering, well, maybe I need to change it up and work with something else. Maybe I need to work with a softer paper, maybe a construction paper. I wanted to use watercolor paper because I feel that I can play with that color of the stencil. And I'm also going to run into issue with that because watercolor paper, even though it's pretty strong and it has great tensile strength, it still is going to do its little warpy thing. So now I'm thinking of switching gears even before I've begun to maybe working with a softer paper, maybe something along these lines, keeping it all collage, all working completely with new material. So the first order of business truly is cutting out the pieces that are going to be my stencil. I think that's how I need to approach it. Oh boy, I'm gonna need to do a little bit more thinking. Okay, I think we're going to abandon the watercolor and we are going to stay with we're just going to keep it all collage. I think that's going to be a lot easier for my hand and my sanity. But I will need to come back in here and make very definite marks on my image if I want an outline. So here we'll start with the head, which is something, dare I say, easy. It's not. Nothing is easy. I want to make sure that line is very, very clear because I want an outline for the collage. I want ephemera in the middle here, but I want an outline here. And in doing that, I need to choose and make sure I have enough ephemera, choose an ephemera that will be able to commit to the entire outline. I think this will work. The only thing we can do is just go ahead and start and see where it goes. Start with something simple like the head and this outline. So again, what I want to do, I want to make sure I have a good outline here, because the outline will be part of the collage. The outline will be collage, but there'll be ephemera in the middle. That's what I'm planning. So I'm asking myself too, where to begin. Begin with the outline and then cut out the rest. Yeah, like I said, all I can do is begin and see where it leads me. Show you what I've been up to off camera, because I think this is going to be a project that will be far more complicated than I anticipated. Again, I want the outline to be this image, and I think my approach, because this is really the first time that I've done something like this, needs to be to cut the stencil out first, not as I go. So this is what I'm going for. I want this look. I want the outline to be the orangey yellow smoky look for the collage, and then we will fill in the blanks later, which means it's a little extra work. I don't mind the challenge, but it is a challenge. This is not easy, and while this paper is a lot easier to cut through than the watercolor paper I had initially thought of, it's also tender. But this is where I believe we are headed. So the head part is kind of ready to go. I'm reluctant to move it yet. I think the approach needs to be, I need to cut the entire thing out first, stencil wise, and then start building the actual collage. So let's go ahead and do that. Whew, I think I'm done, and hindsight is always 2020. So I am gonna do something of a reveal. By no means am I finished. They did a lot of cutting off screen. I just didn't want to make this a super long video like Lustration, which was the last big one that I did. But I'm just trying to create a stencil out of this image, this picture, to build the collage, which means lots and lots of delicate cuts. Yeah, I'll just show you this way. But again, not done. But I have to remove some pieces. I see here. Need to do that. And I'm being a bad collagist. I did not change my blade. It desperately needs to be changed, but I'm also in that zone now. I think you all can relate to that, where it's like, I'm not stopping. I got to keep going here. But then you do that, and you will run into craftsmanship issues, and you know how we are about craftsmanship. So I really need to I'm going to have to do a lot of cleanup because of my dull little blade. This was a lot more challenging than I really imagined it to be, and hindsight is always 2020. How would I do it differently next time? I probably wouldn't do it the way I did it, which was taking the Xerox and cutting a top of the ephemera that I want to use as my outline. I probably would, I don't know, maybe create another stencil. I mean, I guess I could still do it because I have this left over. It's a mess. This is really, really messy. But I'm liking the way, I'm liking the direction we're going in. I see that I missed a couple spots. That's fine. That's not a big deal. We can fix it pretty easily. But I just want to keep these lines intact. The thing is that it makes it almost like lace. It's really, really delicate, so I don't want to mess it up too much. I don't want to mess it up at all. I spent a lot of time off camera getting this part completed, and I still have a bit of a ways to go. But by far, I'm kind of entering a stopping point because I want to get outside and do stuff. But yeah, this is highly delicate now. So what was this? I think this was the shoulder. You see, now this is something else I shouldn't be doing. I'm making cuts. I'm really not sure where it's supposed to be, but that's what it's going to be. And that's what it's going to be now because I made the cut. And this was part of the sash. And I'm also thinking I'm going to come back later and maybe look at the base where the Buddha statue was on, and I was going to include that in the collage. But this part was so intricate and so demanding. I don't know if I want to do it again, although it won't be anywhere near as challenging as this was. And what made this challenging, as I think everyone will be able to relate to, was the fingers and the toes. They are always going to be a challenge because there's so much detail, and you want to maintain that. It's kind of like eyebrows. They may not be the focal point of the face, but you want an eyebrow to determine what the face is. And same with fingers and toes. We know what they are, and we don't want to lose sight of that either. Let me go ahead and cut this part of the base. So we have something of a base that the Buddha is sitting on. And I did start improvising. I did start cutting away from the lines that I had created. So I think next time, I don't know, next time. Well, I want to do it again. This was definitely a challenge for me. And I think I was up for something a little bit different. Been doing a lot of minimal work lately, which I love. I love doing minimals. But I wanted to do something a little different, and I wanted to do something that was really going to push me this week for some reason. And I also didn't want to make it a 3-hour video. It might turn into a 3-hour video, so disclaimer, anything I say cannot be used against me, please. So I'm going to come back. I'm going to leave this alone because this is where we're at right now. This is what we have. I am pleased with it. May need a little cleanup with a fresh blade. But I'll show you where we're at, and we'll keep going. A lot of work went into this, and I'm going to do a bit of a reveal to show you what my thinking is and what I'm trying to accomplish. Here we go. Have a interesting stencil coming from this photo of this Buddha statue from the Norton Simon. I believe I'm done with this. I was working on a bottom portion. Move this up a little bit in the screen right here. And I think I'm going to abandon that just in favor of getting something done and not lingering on a long project, because I would like to finish this fairly expeditiously, only because I want to. I keep talking about doing a large scale project that's going to take a while, and I haven't done that. I just do these smaller projects for the sake of the channel and just for the sake of my own sanity. Now, one thing we must address is the face of the Buddha. I'm not positive what I want to do yet. I will think about it. Keep that off to the side. I do not want to lose that. I'm also reconsidering color because we have such wonderful, warm, tonal qualities about the outline. I need to be careful what I choose next. So I was looking at a lot of reds and oranges and yellows, and while they are lovely and they would work, there isn't very much contrast. You may be able to see here, there's not a ton of contrast with that lovely red. So I started playing with blue because blue will pop out. So just to give you another idea, here we go with blue. So you see that's definitely going to pop out. I don't think I'm going to use this piece, but I certainly have it off to the side. Maybe with the sash area and the ornamentation on the Buddha, I might go with something that is a little more closer to the color of the outline. So that's where I'm at. I'm not cutting it out because it'll be way too frail. If I cut the stencil out, it's going to be too thin, too frail. I don't want to deal with that. I'm going to build it up now like I would a regular stencil that I created, like with the faces. Let me get this little piece out that's going to bug me. I'm going to use packing tape, and hopefully in doing that also with packing tape, you are creating some more stencil strength. But I'm going to use this magazine and harvest the blues and maybe some of the greens. There's some really great blues going on here. I think blue will make this more powerful. Now we already have a blue Buddha collage, which I will show you here, and it's one of my absolute favorites. But there's plenty of room in our world for more blue Buddhas, and that's what I'm going to work on right now. I'm realizing as I'm working that I need to take yet another different approach to this collage. I'm going to need to rely on the Mod Podge to do some initial adhesion. I will also use the packing tape, but because everything is delicate and it's going to get cut away, there isn't a lot of backing that's going to remain, which is a problem for the packing tape. The packing tape needs a larger piece of paper to adhere to, and all I have right now are these thin pieces of ephemera for the outline, so that's going to be a problem. And the only way around that I can see is gluing it down and then maybe applying some packing tape as I go. I also am fascinated by the water elements that I am pulling out for this Buddha with all of the blues, the blue sky, the blue ocean. This is water also, but it doesn't look like water when I turn it a different way. So I'm kind of heading into another direction where I may even have a name for this Buddha, which would be Water Buddha, but don't hold me to it just yet. We're still too soon in the process to be giving names. I'm going to show you the way I glue delicate pieces. And what I'm going to be gluing here is the back of the stencil. I don't want to remove my original template just yet, but I also don't want to stick it to the back of the Xerox copy. That's where your wax paper, the cheapest material you can get that is something you can reuse and use for obviously cooking and other art projects too, is going to come in handy. So what I'm doing is I am tucking this piece of wax paper behind the area that I want to glue. And I'm not going to use a ton of glue, nor am I just going to simply, well, I am simply going to be applying the glue. I don't use a lot. I'm not going to need a lot because I am going to be using the packing tape, and I'll show you what I mean in just a few moments. Also, I'm taking yet another piece of wax paper, and a smaller piece. It doesn't have to be large for this because I'm working with such a small area. And I'm just going to paint my Mod Podge on here. The wonderful thing about Mod Podge and wax paper, it really helps you control how much adhesive you are using. Set this brush off to the side, and I'm going to take this wax paper with glue on it and apply it to the area that I want to have glue on this fragile stencil. It also helps me pulling it up a little bit. Okay, it looks like we got a good amount on here. I don't want it to, no, I want to be careful here. May have put too much on. Very gently removing it. This is going to get tough when I'm working in the areas that have a lot of detail. So something else to keep in mind, bear in mind. Just gently pulling it up. See, it's kind of hanging on to it. I put too much glue on. Usually, well, this can happen regardless. I'll work on this side first. And, ooh, see, it is hanging on tight. So I may have added a little too much glue. That's okay. I think we're going to be all right here. It's these details that are in trouble when you do this kind of thing. Okay, so there it is. Here's what I want to use. But we got a little bit of warping and weirdness going on. I really want to be careful now because it's going to affect the look. And I'm going to just apply my paper, my ephemera, and smooth it out. And we'll see how it looks. It's, yeah, I missed a little tiny spot there, but I should be able to fill it in later. And I don't want this paper stuck to, I don't want this glue to be sticking to the wax paper here either. Okay. Let's see what happened. Okay, well, success in that it didn't stick to the Xerox copy. Okay, it doesn't look bad at all. As long as our craftsmanship is, pretty good, it looks good. Oh, careful. It looks good. That actually looks a lot better than I thought. We missed a little bit of a spot here, but I have plenty of this I can come in and cut away. But what I am going to have to cut away is this area. So I'm not happy about that really, but it isn't a huge deal. I'm going to go ahead and do that in a second. What I think I am going to do next now is attach my packing tape to give this just a little bit more strength. And not a ton of packing tape, just enough to keep it in place as I am working. And as I put more pieces of ephemera on the back here, I can attach this piece of ephemera to whatever is going to go here. So that leads me to my next step. I will come back to the areas I need to fill back in just a second. Yeah, this is going to get a little challenging with this template, but I really want to keep it in place. So this is looking nice. I'm just doing just smoothing things down. And remember, we're going to be cutting this out, so we should be able to, it'll work out okay. Also, just because I have a piece of ephemera here for the hair doesn't mean I can't add to this. That's the wonderful thing about collage, is that you can continuously add layers and you can make something really cool. This is like the base. You have a really cool base foundation to work from, and you can grab little bits of things like this. I use this jewelry all the time for magazines. I know you guys recognize this. And I can just, build up from there. And that may be where the the orange and yellow and reds can come in. We can work with something of a blue background and build from there. That way we have the nice contrast with the outline, then the blue body, and then maybe very warm orientation. But we'll think about that as we go. Now remember, I said keep your blade sharp, especially when you are working with really delicate areas. You want a nice sharp X-Acto blade to keep you, most importantly, from getting injured, but also to work carefully, because a sharper blade means you don't have to press down hard, and you don't want to press down hard when you are dealing with delicate areas. So I am drawing this knife across here. The nice thing about Mod Podge, you can pretty much get to work soon after. So I am going to just cut along here, get rid of that extra. And I'm actually pressing a lot harder than I need to. And I'm still not getting, it's not going to be super exact, but I'm going to make it as exact as I can. And this template's going to give me trouble because I have to move things around. I like to move things around as I am working because I feel I get better coverage that way. So I'm just cutting along here, going very slow, treating it like vintage paper, which breaks very easily. But this, obviously, given its structure, it's a very delicate stencil now, and I want to keep it safe. So I am moving slow, working with a sharp blade, and pressing as I go, as I make the cut, slowly cutting and pressing the area that I cut to make sure it's a clean cut. And this is almost a clean cut, just about. Yeah, this is almost done. Just cutting here. And I'm seeing a lot of areas that I need to do much more clean cuts. And then we have that little space that's been bugging me. And now it's probably bugging you guys because I keep bringing it up. But I'm gonna get to that in just a second. Or I may just wait until we are almost done. Now you see, because of the packing tape, it's keeping things much more sturdier, and I'm actually going to add one more piece. This is probably going to get cut away when I am done here, but hopefully when I add the facial feature, we should be okay in terms of having another area to tape down. We can tape this to whatever I place here for the face. And here we got that little bit of area, a little bit of space. I'm going to put that right here. We should be okay. And I'm going to use packing tape here. I'm not going to bother with glue. Actually, I had to glue this first part down, I think. Maybe I won't have to use as much glue later on. I like Mod Podge. It does tend to bubble on me a bit, but that depends on how I'm applying it. There are many tricks to get around that. You don't have to, have bubbles and, hamper your work. Got another little space there again, very, very small, but I'm being really particular here right now at this stage of the game. We'll see how I feel in a couple hours when I'm still working here and I'm going cross-eyed because I wanted to make things so delicate and so perfect, treating it very precious. But that's fine. I'm not gonna give myself a hard time for that. Okay, so we have some more glue down, some more packing tape down, and this should be safe. So yeah, that's not looking bad at all. The only thing I'm not happy about, I'll share with you guys right here and try to bring the camera up a little bit more so you can see what I'm talking about, is when I did my initial cut, it kind of got a bit scrunched up. I don't know if you can see it along the edges of the stencil, like around here. It got a little messier than I'd like it to be. So it's just something we're gonna have to think about for the next time. And that's also something to consider. Like, this is, I mean, I guess I may have done something like this before. I'm not 100% sure. For some reason, this looks like it'll be really cool for the face. I don't know why. I'm gonna cut it out. But so this is kind of a laboratory. I'm experimenting with this, and it feels good. I'm happy with it so far. So I'm going to keep on working, and let's get this Buddha's face in place. There was a lot of detail going on there. I wanted to replace a portion of the chin on the Buddha. Right here, very small, very intricate, drove me a little crazy there. And I'm still like not overly thrilled with it, but I'm okay with it. It's like I said, this is kind of an experiment. See how this goes, and maybe we'll do more intricate work like this later. So I'm just doing some cleanup. His face is very important, and I know it doesn't seem like it's very ornate at this time. I might just keep it simple like this because there's going to be some more. I think we're going to be using this. I'm not sure. But I like the way it's going. He is a blue Buddha. He's got some, or a water Buddha. I think I like water Buddha. I think that might be a good title for this piece. And I'm seeing just little edges that need cleanup here. And I'm just drawing my knife along them to make things cleaner looking. Yeah, craftsmanship in the end to me is one of the most important things, because once I get the ephemera on here, it's very difficult for me to come back and clean up those edges for the outline. So I'm not going to be too hard on myself. I'm not going to get too crazy, but if I have a little control now, I won't have to worry about it later. And maybe it deviates from the original design because I cut away too much and some portions seem thinner than others. I'm not going to worry about that because it is collage and we have room to move around and create something else that belongs to us. So let's see here. What do we want to do next? Now we're working our way down the body. We also have this sash, and I think this is okay. So the body we have going on here, the arms and the torso, but we have this wonderful little sash that he was wearing. I have these belts that I thought were kind of cool. I'm going to just go ahead and cut them out and play with it for a second. They have a lot of wild color in them, That will offer a great contrast, especially if I keep my Buddha simple with the water theme or not. So let's see if we have enough here. It may not be thick enough to fill this space. Oh, actually it is. That looks kind of nice. I think that has a nice contrast to it. So I can put this part on top. It's a little hard to see with this darn template. I really just don't want to remove it yet. I don't feel confident enough to remove it. So I'm just going to lay it off to the side. And this can get damaged, and it won't hurt anything if it gets, if I can't use it. It's just better to, not have it in my way right now. This is also a time I wish I had smaller scissors because I'm cutting off edges to make way for the new ephemera. And just give it a little trim and making a bigger mess for myself. Studio needs another cleaning. Studio needs a cleaning after every time I work. I need to come in here and just straighten everything up, because I know other people will attest to this. When you have a clean studio, it's easier to come back and start creating right away. So I'm going to put this here. I think that'll work. And I'm going to trim it because I may want to use it in another part of the collage. I'll get this here. Don't want any space really. Let's see, cover everything, fill in the space. A little bit of a gap. I see a little gap that might be forming. But I think we're going to be okay, and I can use my tape. I don't need to use the Mod Podge right now. Hopefully won't have to, and it's going to attach to our ephemera that's already here, our face. I'm going to go ahead and put this here. Fasten it down. I can also put it here. I'm actually using a lot now, a lot of tape. That's to build tensile strength, but it's also going to give me a problem when I come back and cut the rest out. Now we have this bottom portion, and my question is, do I want to use the other part? I think I will, just to keep it consistent. Get another bit of tape and connect it. All right, that's good. Let's see how it looks. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Oh, we actually overlapped a bit here. I will come here with my trusty X-Acto and trim it down very slowly. I don't like doing this when it overlaps like that, because you're already cutting on a delicate surface, and you run the risk of obviously cutting more away than you wanted to. I'm going to take this arm off the Xerox copy. And it's on there pretty good. I don't need it anymore. It's not going to do anything to the image as I'm working. It's really just getting in the way. It's kind of annoying me, actually. Okay, so I like the way this is looking. I want to trim off a little bit more. Just clean up those edges. Looks like I have some tape here. I'm going to go ahead and remove it. I don't want the tape overlapping onto areas I haven't worked with yet. So the next question for me will be what kind of blue to use for the torso. This was a small piece of blue. I don't have anything left. I'm looking over here across my table, and I have this. And I wanted to use these guys actually for something else. And obviously they're not going to fit in with this collage. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut them out. They are going to be a minimal of some sort probably later, so stay tuned. Let's cut them out really quick here. And try to maintain as much blue as possible, because we might need it. And I want to keep them together, so it'll be obvious in the next collage, probably a minimal of some sort, that I can use them. So put them away for another time. Okay, now we have all of this. Now the wonderful thing about working with this type of Oh my gosh, that kind of looks good all together. Like it almost completes the Buddha, his body. Almost. Not quite. I'm seeing little areas I want to clean up still. That's kind of cool that we have something here going on. Now, the reason I'm playing with it like this is my thinking is along the lines of, oh, I can adorn the Buddha later. I can do something totally to adorn this Buddha. There we go. Yeah, that's kind of cool, isn't it? But we may not have enough. We got this torso, and we got these arms. We also have this negative space. That's going to be very, very important in a second. You'll see what I'm talking about because I'm going to need to cut away here again. And then again when I am, well, no, actually that'll be the last time I'll need to cut away. But I want to maybe cut away, be really careful when I do that. Let's see. So torso-wise, we can do this. I think this will look good. And I'm going to worry about these smaller parts in a second. Okay. Let me figure out what I need to do next. Another reveal for you. I am not done, but I did a lot of cutting, and I could remove this part of the collage, or the tools for this collage. And this is what we have. I like the way it looks. I think it's different from what we have made before on the channel. It's been very, very tedious though. I almost would even venture into the realm of, I'm not sure how much fun I really had because there was, and there still is obviously right here, a lot more work that I need to do. Also, this piece, as you can see, is fairly fragile as I use my big clunky scissors to trim away some rough edges. But all in all, I think we have a bit of a success going on here. I just know that I might do things differently in approaching this technique. I'm not sure what that would be, but the outline, which is, well, if you want to say it's kind of the focal point, has been very, very challenging, and it's extremely fragile. And a couple places, it has broken. It broke right here. You can probably see where the tip of the scissors is. It broke right there. It broke over here. So those areas, the more detailed it is, this technique, it's obviously more challenging, as with any areas that are detailed in any piece of any type of art, not just collage, but especially with collage because you do a lot of trimming. What's next? Well, there's the face. I need to put the face on, and I'm not sure how to approach that, how I would like to do that. Also, I want to do some adornments. This little piece is not attached. I just put it there for now because I thought it might look kind of cool there, and I agree it does. So there is some more work to be done here. I think I am going to leave it alone for a bit longer. I'm good with the way it looks. Craftsmanship wise, I feel it's fairly successful despite the little snags I showed you just now on some of the edges. But I'm learning from this, and I think I would like to try it again. It's fun, and like I said, it was tedious. I was getting a little frustrated for brevity purposes. I will share that much with you. So what I want to do next is I want to concentrate on this little face. I want to give some adornments here and there, or maybe I'll just leave it alone. I think as it is, I could probably put the face on and call it a day. Maybe the adornments would be too much. I also had this piece I thought about maybe putting that here. I don't know. So there's some more thinking that I need to. I know I thought about using this, but I am, I'm starting to think that maybe that isn't such a hot idea, that perhaps we want to keep, and I could put this here, that might look kind of cool. Always less is more sometimes with these types of pieces. So I'm just going to cover it up, make sure no crazy kitties jump up here and mess things up, because that happens. And we'll proceed from there, and maybe the next time I show it to you, it's going to be done. Because the cutting part, everyone, was really, really tough. Getting these very delicate little edges, and see, even here I'm seeing they're still not totally clean. And it's not exactly on the ephemera isn't exactly taped on very well. I didn't use a lot of adhesive because I just didn't want to deal with the messiness of glue, especially with these very, very delicate pieces. Okay, let's see what happens next. It has been about a week since I've been in the studio, so I need to get reacquainted with my Buddha and the ephemera that I am going to probably use to finish him up. So, you remember our template that we were working from. Doesn't look like this anymore. Looks more like this, and I really like it. What I do need to concentrate on is what we're going to do about this little face. I have some ideas of primarily staying with our palette for the outline. I think I'm going to go in that direction. So I grabbed some of that smoky, beautiful imagery, and I believe we're going to go in that direction where I'm going to just cut it out using this as, of course, the template. The other part of this that I'm excited about is the adornment that I want to put on the Buddha. I don't know how much I'm going to put on. I don't know if I'm almost done, famous last words, or if there's a lot more I want to do. Also, to show you the direction I'm going in, I have this beautiful, beautiful vintage flower arrangement. I think it was from the Life magazine, I'm not positive. And what I want to do, I really want to use it, and I really want to use it for this image. Of course, I can always scan it, put it in Photoshop, and or do a lot of fussy cutting and make it perfect. I might do that, depends on how the day is going. I got some plans pretty soon, so I'll be leaving again. And this is where I'm going. I might do this. I really like the way that looks. I think I'm going to go ahead and scan this because it really is. It's a charming background, and I love the vintage patina about it. In fact, I think I'm going to go do that right now. So if you'll excuse me for just a moment, and when we get back, we'll get reacquainted with our Buddha and maybe a few stamps. Something small, something cute, but something beautiful. That was a lot of fussy cutting, which I enjoy doing. A couple little nuggets of imagery here that might make its way onto our Buddha's adornment. Went ahead and scanned that beautiful vintage rose background to see what we come up with. So we will return to our Buddha. And the reason why I cut up these stamps, aside from the fact that they're very cool and I can always use them if I don't put them into this collage, I like the size of the imagery as opposed to perhaps these pieces of jewelry, which are relatively small. Cut them out, and they might make way into our Buddha image, but they are a little big. They take up a lot of space, whereas the stamps, maybe not as much, a little bit. So we'll see. We have the water basis here, the water foundation rather, and I think that should be enough. We could probably call it a day with just this and obviously our Buddha's face on here, which I will be getting to shortly. just trying to organize my thoughts, organize what I may want to do next, what is going to stay and what's not going to stay. This is not about flowers or butterflies for this Buddha. He is a water Buddha. I like this too. I don't know if it's going to make way into this collage, and I really like this also. I think this came from an old cookbook. Old cookbooks and old gardening books, us collage people, we love that stuff. I'm also wondering where my little hole punch has gone. I think it's at home. I used it for a workshop back in December, and I wanted to maybe punch out some imagery using the little hole punch, but I can't find it readily right here, right now. I'm not going to hunt it up. And the reason was, in the past when I've done Buddha collages, I've punched out holes and used the remnant for filling in the Buddha's hair. I may not do too much more to this collage. I don't want to overdo it. I think I'm just having fun cutting for you guys right now. Yeah, speaking of Buddhas, I have done Buddha imagery before. I've shared that with you. But many, many moons ago, 2016 to be precise, I did some large scale Buddha collages. I have not shared those on the channel. They're like 16 by 24, I want to say. They're poster size. And they were part of the very first solo show I did back in 2016. And they have made their way to other galleries. Garnered a couple fans from these Buddhas, but I've never sold them. They are hanging in my house. I'll have to show you guys those one day. Those massive Buddhas, and this is, I just wanted to do Buddhas back then. I still like working with the Buddha, as you can see, and I can tell you this will not be the last Buddha collage that I do. But I do need to think about an ending here. And for that, I will tackle his beautiful countenance, his wonderful, serene, sentient countenance, and we'll try to get this guy done. I am going to stop here. I'm stopping because I'm not sure if this needs any more, and I just think I'm going to leave it alone. I'm going to leave it alone. I'm going to call it done. I can always change my mind, as you guys know well, that I do that sometimes. I believe all of these little adornments that I felt initially excited about are a detrimental element to this piece. I added a few and I think it's too much. I even think these are a little too much, and yet I still feel that it's kind of plain. Maybe, maybe not, but something's telling me to stop. And I'm not getting that happy feeling I usually get when I complete something. So I'm going to keep it simple. I also was a little upset with the craftsmanship and the way that I was cutting here. The paper, the quality, it's magazine paper. We've talked about this before. It's not made to be craft paper. That's why it does what it does. It has a life of its own, and one of it was not meant to be, it was never meant to be craft paper. But we make it craft paper anyway, don't we? Because we're collage artists. Nonetheless, I'm going to stop here. Whether or not I return to it, you'll see in the next frame or two, whether or not I continued or we stop here. Or you can see by the timestamp or your recorder showing you're coming to the end. I just got a little frustrated, and I got frustrated when I was doing this. It just wasn't cooperating the way I wanted to. My blade broke, I didn't stop. There's so many factors at play. But I'm going to leave it alone for a minute. I'm going to be okay with what we've done. You know, it's all a learning experience. And actually, the outline that I created from the beginning of the video, I like the way it looks, but it isn't cooperating with me in terms of staying in the lines. Is really frustrating me. But I would like to try this technique again. That much I will share. So whether or not this is finished remains to be seen at this moment. Otherwise, we'll just move on. And I thank you, nonetheless, for joining me on this collage journey. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I will see you in the next video.